Shadrach, Shadrach.
There were 3 children from the land of Israel,
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego. They took a trip to the land of Babylon.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego. Took a lot of gold and he made an idol.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego. And he told everybody when they heard the music of the cornet. And he told everybody when they heard the music of the clarinet. And he told everybody when they heard the music of the horn. You must bow down and worship the idol Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego.
but the children of Israel would not bow down, not Shadrach.
Meshach, Abednego.
You couldn't fool them with no golden idol Shadrach.
Meshach, Abednego.
The king put the children in the fiery furnace.
Oh, Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, heap on the coals and the red hot
oh,
brimstone.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, 7 times hotter, hotter than it ought to be.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, burned up the soldiers that the king had put there. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. But the Lord sent an angel with snowy white wings down in the middle of the furnace,
yeah.
talking to the children about the power of the gospel.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
Couldn't even harm a hair on the head of Shadrach.
Meshach, Abednego.
Laughing and talking while the fires had jumping.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
Oh, Nebuchadnezzar called.
Oh, yeah.
When he saw the power of the Lord, and they had a big time in the house of Babylon.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach!
קרבתך בקרבת הים, גזלו את שנתי. נשמת אפך נשבה מן הים, ותחדור מלוכה אל ביתי. וגלים בדוח ים, עולים בבכיים, ממרומי אהבתי אוהל קלה. בירח אדום מול הים, מפקד דמך, בירח אדום מול הים, דמי ודמך, וגלים בדוח ים, זועקים בבכיים, את שמך, את שמך, את שמך, בואי קלה, בואי קלה, בואי קלה, בואי. קרבתך בקרבת הים, גזלו את שנתי. נשמת אפך נשבה מן הים, ותחדור מלוכה אל ביתי. וגלים בדוח ים, עולים בבכיים, ממרומי אהבתי. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, בואי קלה. אסגור את חלוני, הקרובה סופה. איך אסגור את חלוני ואת יחפה. איך אסגור את חלוני והים קרה. איך אסגור את חלוני ואת ערה. קרה, והאוח בלב הלב את שנתי קרה.
הלוואי ומענן תרד עלינו קשת, הלוואי ומענן תרד עלינו קשת, הלוואי שלעולם הזה יש תקנה, הלוואי ויום יצמח מתוך סופה גועשת, הלוואי ולא תאבד לעד המתנה, הלוואי שהמדבר יצמיח עשב דשא, הלוואי ועוד נשב בצל התאנה, הלוואי שלא נכאב ואיש אחיו יאהב, הלוואי ויפתחו שוב שערי גן עדן, הלוואי ויתמזגו מזרח ומערב, הלוואי הלוואי ונחדש ימינו כאן כקדם, הלוואי ולא יישא עוד גוי אל גוי חרב, הלוואי ולא ננטוש את דרך התקווה, הלוואי והאדם יהיה רחום עד הערב, הלוואי שיש סיכוי אחד לאהבה, הלוואי שלא נכאב ואיש אחיו יאהב, הלוואי ויפתחו שוב שערי גן עדן, הלוואי ויתמזגו מזרח ומערב, הלוואי הלוואי ונחדש ימינו כאן כקדם. שלא נכאב ואיש אחיו יאהב, הלוואי ויפתחו שוב שערי גן עדן, הלוואי ויתמזגו מזרח ומערב, הלוואי הלוואי נחדש ימינו כאן כקדם, הלוואי שלא נכאב ואיש אחיו יאהב, הלוואי ויפתחו שוב שערי גן עדן, הלוואי ויתמזגו מזרח ומערב, הלוואי הלוואי ונחדש ימינו כאן כקדם.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Let me just cut this off. That came up. Okay, that's nice. All righty. Here we go. Let me just cut out this YouTube, get it out of the way. Yeah, we can leave it right like that for now. Okay. Let's get rid of this. Shabbat Shalom desde Cuba. Bienvenidos desde Cuba. Okay. Get rid of that. We get rid of that. We're supposed to put this up. I think that's the way it's supposed to work. Let's make it smaller. Good enough. Okay, so welcome to today's Torah study. There is no Parashat Shavua because the Rabbinites are doing their Simchat Torah tonight. Actually, let's go take a look at that for a second, if we can. Let's see here. We'll look at the schedule for the holidays again. All right, I could do it this way. Hold on a second. No. So we do present. We do share screen. We do Chrome tab. And now I got to find the Chrome tab now. We'll just do window. We do Karaism. We do that. Then we go over here. Then we do that. Right? Yes, we do that. No, we do that. Okay, there we go. So these are the holiday dates. Let me make it a little bit bigger on the screen. Boom. So those are the holiday dates. And as we can see, the last day of Sukkot for us Karaites, or to be more specific, the Atzeret of Chag Sukkot, what's often called Shmini Atzeret by the rabbis, starts tonight. So tonight is the last day of Sukkot. You could put it that way, or the extra day tacked on to the end of Sukkot. And it also begins the rabbinical Simchat Torah. So rabbinical Simchat Torah is it depends. If it's in Israel, then it's the same as Shmini Atzeret, and then it would have been last night. If it's outside of Israel, then it's tomorrow. I mean, starting into tomorrow, and that's when the Rabbinites finish off the Torah reading cycle and start again. So that's why there's no Parshat Shavua, because they're going to do it. They either did it, or they're either doing it now, actually, or they're going to do it tomorrow. If they're outside of Israel, although I don't think anyone's dancing around in the Torah with the Torah in Israel right now. We all know what's going on there. And I'll talk about that a little bit. Obviously, it's horrible what's going on there, but those are the holiday dates. So to make a long story short, we are now in the 7th day of Sukkot. It will end at, we could say sunset tonight. We'll start the 8th day of Sukkot, if you want to call it that, or the extra day that's tacked on to the end of Sukkot. Just for 1 second. And that's where we are in terms of the holidays. So the Tanakh, the Torah, doesn't say anything about a Simchat Torah. That it's a nice tradition, but it's a rabbinical tradition. The Torah does talk about an 8th day of Sukkot, if you want to call it that, or really it's kind of a separate holiday tacked on to the end of Sukkot. It's called the Atzeret of Sukkot. Both Passover and Sukkot have an Atzeret. They have an extra kind of day, or the last day is kind of an extra, not extra, but considered kind of almost a separate holiday. And so that's what we have. So to talk briefly about what's going on in Israel, obviously it's horrible, but you can turn on the news, you can hear all kinds of pundits speaking, blah, 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 blah. You'll hear pretty much the same old stuff again and again and again. Israel's not going to do anything. I know the game already. There ain't going to be no ground invasion of Gaza. Maybe a small one, but it's not going to reconquer Gaza. And they're all talk. Netanyahu is all talk. The government, except for maybe the extreme right wing, is all talk. They're not going to do anything. They're going to do some airstrikes. They're going to kill a couple of people. They're going to hope that Hezbollah doesn't get involved from the north, and then everything's going to go back to status quo, and it'll all be forgotten in a couple of weeks. That's the way it always works, unless, of course, it's escalated. Because they're cowards. They don't really know what they stand for. They don't really know where they're going. They just want to create a nice, peaceful country that's both a democracy and a Jewish state, and make economic peace with the surrounding Arab nations, and just live for what reason, I don't know. But, for, just to have a nice, peaceful, quiet, democratic, Western style with some Judaism mixed in state. And that's not going to work. It never was going to work. It hasn't worked. It's not going to work. So the thing that I can add as a Karaite is, yes, it's tragic, but it is all, I don't want to use the word fault of Israel, but it's due to the behavior of Israel. We know we're promised again and again and again and again throughout the Torah, throughout the Tanakh, we see it, that when we disobey the ways of Yahweh, when we disobey the ways of God, then we are punished. Boy, the background is acting weird. Maybe that's not a good background. Okay. Then we are punished with the sword of the nations. And so this is not war. This is not war. It's baloney. It's not war. War might be if Hezbollah joins in, and then some of the surrounding nations join in, and then Iran joins in. That might be war, but this is not war. I think Benjamin Netanyahu is just being a little bit melodramatic. It might end up being war, but it's not war at this point. This is just a much more serious version of what Israel has seen a zillion times before with these missiles and incursions and all this kind of stuff. Yes, this has definitely reached a new level, and this could soften up the underbelly of Israel for an actual war, because the enemies of Israel may see, oh, Israel's a lot weaker, or now we know Israel's as weak as we suspected it was, because they can't even protect their own citizens. They can't even protect their own people in the south. But this is not war. It may turn out to open up into a real war, but this is not war. But one thing we do know is it's the same old games, the same old stuff we hear from the same old stale government. Oh, the IDF knows what it's doing, and just listen to the government and trust us. And they're the same ones who, over years and years and decades, got Israel into this mess by being weak with its enemies, by giving away the Gaza Strip instead of, well, use your imagination, by allowing Hezbollah to increase their weaponry to the point where they now have, I think the last count I heard was 100,000 missiles, and that was a couple of years ago, and more sophisticated missiles, by Netanyahu talking this big game about how he's not going to let Iran get a nuclear weapon, and who knows, maybe they already have one or they're close to one, and he's done absolutely nothing to stop Iran from doing anything. It's just all the same old game, and it's all going to end, and it's all going to end in a huge tragedy and huge implosion at one point or another. Shabbat Shalom, Christian. It's all going to end in a huge implosion of the state of Israel in one way or another, because it's all right there in the Torah. If we disobey the word of Yahweh, as our people have done for thousands of years, then we pay the price. We pay the consequences. The book of Judges is a series of Israel. They always talk about the cycle of the book of Judges. Israel disobeys the word of God. Tragedy comes to Israel, some kind of incursion by the surrounding nations, whether it's the Philistines or whatever other nation may attack, and then a judge arises and fights for Israel, and then Israel repents, appoints a judge or gets a judge appointed by Yahweh. They defeat their enemies, and then there's peace for a period of time, and then the cycle begins again. So this is just a later stage in what has been going on in Israel for decades and decades and decades, which is the consequence of Israel disobeying the word of Yahweh, as we are so good at doing, and as we've been doing for thousands and thousands. This background is really weird. I think I should change the stupid background. Try a different background. I don't know why it's not working with this background, or maybe I have to move away a little bit. And Israel just, playing the same old game that they've been playing for thousands of years, disobeying the word of Yahweh and adopting foreign cultures. What are the foreign cultures? As I've been saying literally for decades, Israel has adopted two foreign cultures. Foreign culture number one is rabbinical Judaism. And yes, it is a foreign culture, in the sense that what is rabbinical / Pharisaic Judaism? It's a distortion. It's a distortion of the Torah. And as many people will point out, Pharisaic Judaism is heavily influenced by Hellenistic culture. There have been entire books written about that, by Zoroastrianism. And God knows what else other junk get picked up along the way. Christian medieval mysticism leading to stuff like the Zohar and the Kabbalah and all that nonsense. So you could think of it as like a snowplow in, a northern city like New York City, where I grew up, and the snowplow just pushes through the streets, and as it picks up the snow, it's just picking up mud and slush and garbage. And the more it pushes down that street, the more mud and slush and garbage it picks up. And that's basically what what standard Judaism is. It's just every culture that it's gone through, it's picked up garbage from that culture until it's a giant mess right now. And that's the one culture, the one false culture that Israel has clung to. And the other one, and partially as a reaction to that, the other false culture that Israel has clung to is Western secular, particular America, America worship, basically. So the two gods that most of the people of Israel in Israel worship are either the God of the rabbis, whatever God that is, I don't know, Adonai, Hashem, Adokai, Elohim, Hashem, or they worship the God of McDonald's and Coca-Cola, and God only knows what other junk, transgenderism is now part of that culture, and it's only getting more and more bizarre as time goes on. And the two fight against each other. So you could look at Israel right now. There is no place that represents true Yahweh worship, true Torah. There are two cities that are kind of at war with each other within Israel, represented by Tel Aviv on the one side and Jerusalem on the other side. And it's almost like city-states in the ancient times fighting wars with each other. So Jerusalem represents, we'll start with Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv represents Western worship of Western culture. It doesn't mean that everyone in Tel Aviv is secular. Far from it. There are many religious people in Tel Aviv, but that's what the city represents. And So it's Western secular culture, America worshiping the god of money and Coca-Cola and McDonald's. That's Tel Aviv. So you could think of Tel Aviv as an outpost. It's like a high place. I'm surprised they don't even have, altars set up to one altar set up to the god of Coca-Cola, another altar set up to the god of McDonald's, another altar set up to the god of money, each on high places. I guess the only reason they don't have that is because Tel Aviv doesn't really have any high places. It's a coastal plain, but if there were, then I'm sure there would be, literal temples set up to Coca-Cola and McDonald's. They are almost like temples. I mean, you drive to any foreign country, just about. I mean, God, even in Morocco, for instance, all you see, the golden arches here and Coca-Cola there and golden arches there. And, it's almost like high places set up to the gods of the United States. Yes, USA is Sodom and Gomorrah. That's true. So that's Tel Aviv. So Tel Aviv worships the gods, the god of Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and money. In other words, Western culture. And then the other city, if you go about 45 minutes to the east, up into the hills of Jerusalem, then you'll find the city that worships the god of the rabbis. So I'm surprised they don't have altars set up. One to Rabbi Akiva. So Jerusalem does actually have high places. It's hilly. I wouldn't call it mountainous, but it's hilly. And I'm surprised that on some of these mountaintops or hilltops, one doesn't have a temple to Rabbi Akiva. Another doesn't have a temple to I don't know, to the Rambam. Actually, there is one in Tiberias, kind of his grave. And one doesn't have a temple to Hillel and to Hillel the elder, because this is what Jerusalem worships. And these two cities are at war with each other. And both of them are at war with Yahweh. They're both at war with God. Neither of them are following the Torah correctly, in my opinion. So that's the story. That's what we got. That's what's going on in Israel. And as I've been saying for decades, and people have been laughing at me for decades, the ultimate end of this is the implosion of the current state of Israel. The current state of Israel it's not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. You cannot have two foreign cults. And this time, if Suri is here, I do mean it in the real sense of we use the word cult in the modern sense. You can't have two cults: the cult of America worship and the cult of Rabbi Akiva worship, if you want to call it that, or the cult of rabbinical Judaism worship, at war with each other, and neither of them really worshiping Yahweh and following his ways and following his Torah. And this is just another stage in that gradual implosion of the current state of Israel, which is completely unsustainable. And who knows how far to go this time? It's like birth pains. It's like whatchamacallit, like labor pains, right? So it happens every couple of years. There's another incursion, another attack from here, another attack from there. This one is worse. Will this one open up into full blown war? I can't say. I can't predict. It really depends. I'll tell you one thing that I can say: if the other enemies of Israel detect weakness, then 1,000% for sure it will, because that's the way that the Arabs operate. When they smell, they're like sharks. When they smell blood in the water, then they attack. Hold on one second. So that's the story. And where were we? What was I saying? Yeah, so that I can definitely assure you that if the Arabs smell weakness, and they're very good at smelling weakness, almost like a dog or a cat, and they smell the blood of an injured animal or something like that, then 100%, 1,000% for sure they'll escalate. And if they smell strength, then they'll back off. So, but Israel can't put up the facade of strength forever when there is no underlying strength. And if you have a country that is not worshiping Yahweh correctly, that is not following the word of Yahweh, and is in fact just two city-states at war with each other, Tel Aviv representing the religion of America, Coca-Cola, and McDonald's, and Jerusalem representing the religion of rabbinical Judaism, Rabbi Akiva and Hillel the Elder, and setting up their high places to them in certain ways, I guess. Maybe the synagogues are kind of high places to these false gods, and maybe in Tel Aviv, these Coca-Cola signs and golden arches are high places to these other false gods. So that's the way it is. 1 second, please. All right. So all of that being said, so I guess what we'll do at this point is we'll start our Torah study, but that's pretty much what I have to say. Okay. So anybody want to comment on this issue? I guess some people are. Marianana McDonough says USA, Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes, we know that. I just saw in Spanish language about Coca-Cola and they made some kind of pact with the dark side. Psalm 83 war. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you can clarify. But in the meantime, let's get on with our Torah study. So we're going to be studying the last two books of Deuteronomy. So we have Deuteronomy chapter 33, which is essentially Moses's, I guess you could say, deathbed, although he doesn't really have a deathbed. Deathbed blessings to the tribes of Israel, kind of in the vein that Jacob blessed the tribes of Israel on his deathbed. And then Deuteronomy 34 is the death of Moses. It's the last chapter of Deuteronomy. It kind of sums up what the Torah, the essence of the Torah is Moses leading us out of Egypt and bringing us to the gate of the border of the land of Israel. So that being said, let's get down to business here. If anyone has any comments, then please chime in. If anyone has any important updates of what's going on in Israel, feel free to type them in the comments there. And so here we go. So let me share the screen differently. Okay, I'm going back to this picture in the picture because what was happening was let's see if it works now. I was having some scrolling problems on some of these PDF files when I did it in a separate window. So let's see what's better now. All right, we'll worry about it later. So we're in Deuteronomy. What's going on here? So we're in Deuteronomy. Come on. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 34. No, I'm sorry, chapter 33. We ended last time in Deuteronomy chapter 32. We can just quickly reiterate what we saw at the end of Deuteronomy chapter 32. Get back here. So we'll start here. We'll go very quickly through the end of 32 because it kind of leads into 33. Yeah, of course, that's typical see with would we call you? See with. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 32. We're going to start here very briefly. We'll just reiterate what we read last week. Verse 48. וידבר יהוה אל משה בעצם היום הזה. So Yahweh said to Moses on this very day, what very day? On the very day that Moses taught this song/poem to the children of Israel. This is basically Moses. What we spent the past 2 weeks studying was this Ha'azinu poem/song, and it is meant to be Moses's farewell song. He knows he's going to die very soon, and this is meant to be his farewell song/poem that he places into the ears of Israel, so that when he's gone, maybe they'll remember what he tried to teach them throughout his life. Maybe they'll have some song and some poem which they can repeat and sing from generation to generation to get some of these ideas into their thick skulls. Okay, and we have here, now on this very day, when Moses taught this song to Israel, this Hazinu song, God said, verse 49, Ale el har ha'avarim hazeh har divo, asher be'eretz Moav, asher al pnei Yericho, וראה את ארץ כנען אשר אני נותן לבני ישראל לאחוזה. So go up to this Mount of Avarim. That's usually thought of as a proper name. Har Nebo. So if this were a parsha, we pick maybe apart why it's given two names and what they mean, but we're not going to. Sheba Eretz Moab, which is in the land of Moab. So the land of Moab is directly to the east. It's current day Jordan, basically. It's directly to the east of Israel. So I don't know, let's do biblical map of Israel. Where's a good one? Maybe that. Let's see. Reuben, God. No, that's already, well, okay. I don't know. There's so many. That's already after they settled it. Okay, any rate. So I'll just use this one here. Okay. So so the plains of Moab are going to be right around, let's see, that's the Dead Sea, that's the Sea of Galilee. Jericho is going to be right towards the north of the Dead Sea, so right around there, right around where you see where this Gad and Reuben territory meet. It should be right around there. I don't know exactly where, but somewhere in that area. So so Moses goes up to this mountaintop, Al Pnei Yericho, which is on the plains or facing Jericho, right? Jericho is going to be the first city that the Israelites conquer. And behold, look at the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the children of Israel as a holding, as a possession. Verse 50, Umut Bahar Asher Eta Ole Shama Wa He Asef El Amecha Asher Met Aharon Ahicha Behor Hahar Wa Yasef El Emau. So, and die. It's a command. We mentioned this last week. So God says to Moses, die. And really, the implication, of course, you will die, but it's grammatically speaking, it's in the command form. Die on this mountain, on the mountain, which you go up to, and be gathered to your people, as Aaron, your brother, died on Mount Hor and was gathered to his people. Let me see if I can let the poor cat is crying. He's all alone outside. Give me 1 second. It's bothering me. I'll have to put him back out. What? 1 second, please. One second. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so let's go on. We're in verse 51. Al asher me'altem bi b'toch b'nei Yisrael, because you betrayed me, you trespassed, they usually translate that, against me, among the children of Israel, b'mei miribat kadesh, regarding the waters of Meribah, in Kadesh midbar Sin, in the Sin desert, al asher lo kidashti, because you did not sanctify me, kidashtem, speaking about both Moses and Aaron. So now we get an explanation also not just of why Moses died, but also of why Aaron died, because if you look at the previous verse, it says you're going to die just like your brother Aaron died, because you, plural, didn't sanctify me, didn't proclaim me as holy in the incident of Meribah, right? He struck the rock and said, have water, you rebels, without even mentioning Yahweh. So Yahweh used that as a reason, or shall we even say an excuse, not to let Moses into the land of Israel. I've given my opinion regarding this before, that I think it was really kind of an excuse, and that it was just, Moses did his job, and it was time for him to go to rest and to let the next generation take over. Every generation, every person has their mission in life, and then they go their way. It's time for them to die, rest, await the end of days for the resurrection, and let the next generation take over. Right, as we see in do this almost for Marianne from Mar Yanana Miknana. I know we've been talking lately about the book of Daniel, but if we look at the very end of the book of Daniel, then I think that idea is expressed very beautifully. Let's see here. Shabbat Shalom, Phil. So the end of the book of Daniel. Can you, well, okay, sorry about that again. So in the book of Daniel, so this is Daniel chapter 12:9. I'll just read it in the English, okay? We'll start with 8. I heard, this is Daniel speaking, so I asked my Lord, what will the outcome of all this be? The reply is, he replied, go your way, Daniel, because the words are rolled up and sealed until the time of the end. Many will be purified, made spotless and refined, but the wicked will continue to be wicked. None of the wicked will understand, but those who are wise will understand. And we'll go down to 13, the very end of the book of Daniel. As for you, speaking to Daniel, go your way till the end. You will rest, and then at the end of days, you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance. So that's basically the sentiment that I feel is going on with Moses, that he's done his part, and now it's time for him to rest and let the next generation take over. We can't do everything. It's not all about us. We're each playing a little part in this big play of life throughout the generations. We all do our little part, and then we pass it on to the next generation. Okay, verse 52. Because before you, laid out before you, you shall see the land, but you will not go into there. You will not go into the land which I am giving, which I've given, which I will give to the children of Israel. Okay, so that brings us now to, close this out. That brings us now to Deuteronomy 33, and we'll start our official Torah study here. And this is the last parsha. This is Zot HaBracha. Okay. Uzot HaBracha Asher Berach Moshe Ish HaElohim Et Bnei Israel Lifnei Moto. This is the blessing which Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. We can get a little commentary going on this. So this is Deuteronomy. Is it any better if I do it this way? It's jumpy. I guess it's broadcasting that screen. That's why it does it. It really is annoying. Okay. Anyway, a second. Is that Deuteronomy? Yes. Okay. So Deuteronomy 33, 1594. Come on. Four. Okay, this is the blessing. So Robert Alter, what does he have to say on that one? Okay, and this is the blessing. Why is it not highlighting like I wanted to? There we go. Good enough. The second concluding poem is placed exactly in the same position just before the end of the book as Jacob's blessing before his death to the future 12 tribes, right? So we mentioned that the end of the book of Genesis, or Genesis basically ends with Jacob's blessing to the 12 tribes of Israel and then his death. It's really almost uncanny the way it's almost deliberately paralleled if we look at Genesis, which we're going to be starting again very soon. So Genesis 49, which is the second to last chapter, are Jacob's blessings to his sons on his deathbed, then the death of Jacob. And then Genesis 50 is basically mourning for Jacob, and then ultimately the death of Joseph, right? So the second to last chapter of Genesis contains Jacob's blessings to his 12 sons, and then ultimately his death, and then the death of the rest of those entire generations. Then it's picked up in Exodus a couple of generations later, basically with the birth of Moses. And so we have the same kind of structure here. The second to last chapter in Deuteronomy is Moses' blessings to, it's not 12 sons anymore, it's the 12 tribes, but Moses was kind of the father of the nation. He was kind of the George Washington of Israel. And then the last chapter is basically Moses' death, right? So it's very similar structure between Genesis and Deuteronomy. Let me just check back in here. Yoshi Ben, have a Torah portion calendar. I found that this year we kept getting behind while thinking we were on track with everyone else. Yes, we got behind because we do the in-depth studies, and I've mentioned that many times. I try to keep up, but if we fall behind a little bit, we fall behind. But now we're actually ahead because tomorrow the Rabbinites are finishing up their Parshat HaShavua. The Torah, Simchat Torah. Unless they're in Israel, then they're supposed to be doing it today. And so they'll be doing that either today or tomorrow, and we're doing it also. Okay, so where were we? Okay, there's some precise echoes of Jacob's blessing here, and maybe we'll compare the two. There are also some parallels to the Song of Deborah. These correspondences 1 second, please. It's so hard to scroll up and down. Okay, good enough. These correspondences suggest that in the pre-monarchic period, there may have been an oral reservoir of poetic sayings about the tribes from which the poets could draw to celebrate them. That's secular nonsense. The archaic nature of the language and the political situation envisaged by the poem argue for its origins in the era before the monarchy. That's all, again, secular biblical scholarship nonsense. Let's just see if there's anything that's relevant to us. Judah here, in contrast to Genesis 49, is not represented as the tribe of kings. Okay, the poem appears to assume the same form of national federation of some form of national federation of all 12 tribes. The centralization of the cult at a single national site, one of the great themes of Deuteronomy, is nowhere implied. On the contrary, Zevulun and Issachar are said to offer sacrifices in their tribal territory, verse 19. Finally, because of the antiquity of the poem, the text shows signs of having been mangled at several points. The most egregious of these will be noted below. And at these junctures, all efforts to rescue intelligible meaning from the reading that has come down to us are liable to be unavailing. Okay, so we'll follow Robert Alter's commentary. Again, I like Robert Alter's commentary. Some people think because I use it as the go-to commentary that I'm like some kind of, Robert Alter fanboy, like I worship at his footstool or something like that. That's definitely not the case. I think he's good. There's a lot that I don't, as I pointed out, I don't always agree with him, but it's a very accessible commentary, and it's a good commentary. So I use it as kind of a go-to starting point. Okay, so we are in Deuteronomy 33. And let's go. So, verse 1, V'zot bracha asher berach Moshe ish ha'Elohim et bnei Yisrael et nemoto. So this is the blessing. We read this verse already. That Moses blessed the children of Israel before his death. Verse 2. Wayomer Yahweh mi Sinai ba wi rah mi sa'ir lamo fia mihar paran wa ata me rivavot kodesh mi yamino ish dat lamo. Okay, so this is all very poetic stuff. So, Wayomer Yahweh mi Sinai ba. Yahweh came from Sinai, from Sinai. Wazarach mi Seir, and shined from Seir. So where's Seir? Seir is the country of Edom, Mount Seir. Okay, we know that Edom and Seir are the two, well, Seir is not the word for it. Edom is one of the names of, or the two names associated with Esau, let's put it that way, are Edom and Seir. Edom means red, or it comes from the word meaning red. Seir comes from the word meaning hairy. And we know that when Esau was born, he was noted as being both red and hairy. And of course, the hairiness played a part in Jacob's deception of his father Isaac when Isaac was old and his eyes were no longer working properly. So Seir means the territory of Esau, or the territory of Edom. That also, if we look at our biblical map, let's see, maybe we could do not biblical map of Israel, but how about biblical map of nations surrounding Israel? Let's try that. Maps of Israel. There we go. Okay, good. Let's grab this one. And let's see if we can get the actual picture. Conforming to Jesus ministry. Where's our map? Disappeared, of course. Okay, let's go back. Let me do this a slightly different way. I think if I make this bigger, no. Link a new tab. Save image as, open image in new tab. See if that works. Okay, good. That works. Okay, so here's Edom down here. So Edom is, again, let me just close this out. So yeah, I guess the most famous city in Edom, in the territory given to Esav, would be Petra, which was part of the Nabatean kingdom at one point, and it's very interesting stuff, but we won't get into it right now. But Petra, it was a huge city, was a main city, and now it's kind of a remainder of itself in the current day country of quote unquote Jordan. And so Seir, Mount Seir, the Seir mountains are in this area over here. So what does it say? It says that he shone with Zarach me Seir. He shone from Seir. So what does that mean? I think this is just a reference to the fact that Seir is to the east, and Zarach means to shine, like the shining sun, or when the sun rises and shines, then it's coming from the east, but it's just being poetic. So he came from Sinai and shone from Seir. Again, if we look at the map, then where is Sinai? We don't have a big enough map here, but by a lot of accounts, let's see if we can do this, Google Maps. Let's see. Google Maps. Let's see if this works. So, come on. So, by many accounts, I'm going to make this a little bigger. So, by many accounts, Mount Sinai was somewhere in modern day Saudi Arabia. So, let's say down here, okay? And if the territory of Edom is here, and God, Yahweh, came from Sinai and shone from Seir, if we follow along that path, whoops, yeah, we can make it like that size. Should we put some satellite on there? Make it nicer. Okay. So let's say, I think by some accounts, I mean, nobody really knows. But by some accounts, so the crossing of the Red Sea was over here in this, the Gulf of Aqaba, which leads out. This right over here is the border between Jordan and Saudi Arabia, leads out to Saudi Arabia. So let's say Mount Sinai was over here, around there. If you can see my mouse, the Seir Mountains, the territory of Edom was around here. So we see a straight line from Sinai through Edom towards Israel. Who knows? That possibly is what it's talking about. In other words, the movement here from Sinai to Seir, and then we have Ophir Mehar Paran. So where would Paran be? Let's see, that also follows in a straight line. So place in Sinai. So I'm just thinking aloud here. So Paran, let's see, we can go to Rabbi Wikipedia for that one. Desert of Paran. Let's see if we get a map. You guys are going now? Okay. See you later. Have fun. Shabbat Shalom, Suri. So Paran, let's see if we can get a map for Paran. Let's see at least what Rabbi Wikipedia has to say about Paran. Where is it? Paran. Then God of Paran is later in the Israelites. Paran is the words, King David. Both these Syrians, Arab and Islamic traditions. We don't need that. Let's see also. Huh. Jaz. Let's see one more time here. Paran. Okay, Paran is Paran. Well, I guess it doesn't say where it is. It's not precise. It is not certain precisely where the wilderness of Paran is to be located. It is often associated with Mount Sinai in Egypt, and there's some evidence that it may have originally referred to the southern portion of the Sinai Peninsula. However, the Deuteronomy 1:1 text suggests it could be east of the Jordan River. The minor prophet Habakkuk references that God is coming from Teman, which is Yemen, the Holy One from Mount Paran, Habakkuk 3:3. So if Habakkuk says that, the Holy One is coming from Mount Paran, and here, that's very similar to what we see here, right? He appeared from Mount Paran. So I don't know. Maybe these are just different places, or maybe this is kind of describing a line from Sinai to Seir to Paran. So again, if let's say Paran, if Mount Sinai is, let's say, around here, and Mount Seir is here, and maybe Paran is right here, then maybe it's describing Yahweh coming from Sinai to Israel. Again, speculating a little bit here, but trying to think out loud. But since Rabbi Wikipedia says we don't know where Paran is, we have to believe Rabbi Wikipedia. That's just the way it is. He's the best rabbi around. And but who knows? Okay, but these three places are mentioned here: Sinai, Seir, and Mount Paran. Ve'ata me revavot kodesh miyamino. Okay, and you me revavot kodesh miyamino, from the myriads. Literally, a revava is literally a myriad. Myriad is used colloquially today to mean many, but the technical, if I'm not mistaken, the technical sense of the word myriad is, let's see. Oh, I guess I'm wrong, so it does mean that, but 1 second. Countless. There it is. Mid-16th century myriad via Latin from Greek murias, myriad from muri oi, which means 10,000. So the technical sense of the word myriad is 10,000, and that is what the word in Hebrew revava, which we see in the middle of this word here, me revavot, means. So, and you, from the 10 me revavot kodesh miyamino, this is a bit difficult to parse, but it is poetic, and Robert Alter's notes is that, again, maybe there's some corruption to the text. I don't know if I go for that, but let's see. But ata me revavot kodesh. And you, from the 10,000s, and a revava is very technically a group of 10,000. We don't have such a word in English. We have a word for 100. We have a word for 1,000. We don't have a specific word for 10,000. But in Hebrew, there is a specific word for 10,000. That's a revava, based on the underlying root resh bet, which is rav, which means a lot. So that's why I guess myriad has come to mean a lot. Just as here, Rav or Revavot, Revava comes from a lot, but technically it means 10,000. A Revava is a group of 10,000. So you, from the 10,000s or the countless amounts of holiness, and I have no idea what the heck that means. We're going to have to look at some commentary on that one. Miyamino, ishdat lamo. On his right, and nobody knows what this means. Eshdat, they sometimes break it up into a fire of law, or a fiery law for him. Okay, who the heck knows what this means? The commentators are not even going to know what this means. It's very poetic. It's a little bit confusing. But let's see what we get. Well, I disagree with you, Ithan. I don't think it's sad at all. It's sad, yes, but Moses did as as I said now a number of times, Moses did what he had to do. You can't do everything. He did what his mission in life was, and I think it would be sad if the torch wasn't passed on to the next generation for them, in this case Joshua, to do what he needed to do. Right? We have to at some point step aside and let the next generation take over. Hopefully we teach them well. What's that song? Teach your children well, blah 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 blah. So, and they take over and they do their part. So yes, it's sad, but Moses definitely fulfilled his mission in life. So in that sense, it's not sad. Okay, let's get a little commentary here. First of all, let's see how Robert Alter translates it. The Lord from Sinai came, and from Seir he dawned upon them. Oh, that's a good translation. He shone from Mount Paran and appeared from Revavot Kodesh. I see. He's translating that as a place. Revavot Kodesh. So then that makes a bit more sense. He says shone. What is he getting at here? Hold on a second. So he shone from Mount Paran. Okay, it doesn't really say shone. Okay, maybe that really means shone. In modern Hebrew, lofia means to appear, but we could look at the underlying root. Oops. Yeah, shine out forth, to send out beams, cause to shine. It's interesting because, even though I've been studying the Torah for years and years and years, I constantly am realizing or am seeing that sometimes I'll overlay the modern Hebrew meaning or the modern Hebrew definition onto the biblical Hebrew definition. So in modern Hebrew, lahofia, the word right here means to appear. Like if you want to say, where did he appear from? You say, me'efu hofia. How did he suddenly turn up? But now we see that really what it means, at least according to the BDB, and we'd have to maybe look at it further, is, well, shine out or shine forth, send out beams, cause to shine. So all of these, if that is the case, which I have no reason to assume it's not, then we have words. So here he came from Sinai. He shone forth, and this is the same word that's used as the rising sun. So it's like a rising sun. He shone forth from Seir, and he sent out and he shined forth from the Mount of Paran. So these are all shining, appearing, showing words, I guess. Well, ba is not. It just means come. Well, actually, even that is. Actually, it is, because a lot of times it speaks about the sun. When it says the sun comes out or the sun rises, it uses the word ba. It literally means the sun comes out. So all of these are shining words. That's very interesting. And you, so where does it? Let's see how Robert Alter takes that. And appeared from Revavot Kodesh. So he translates this Revavot Kodesh as a place name, but he completely ignores this word here, V'ata, you, and came. I don't know. Not parsing that one, but we'll just move on. Okay. And appeared from Revavot Kodesh. From his right hand, fire bolts for them. So that's how he's translating this. Mimino, ishdat. This is usually translated as a law of fire. But the problem is the word dat doesn't show up anywhere else in the Torah. It only shows up in one place. They're translating this as Esh Dat. Dot. See here something. Let's bring it right back. No, it shows up. I'm sorry, more than one place, but always in the later books of the Torah. Specifically, if I'm not mistaken, all of the time with regards to the Persian Empire. I think that might be the only place it shows up. In fact, I'll look that up in a second, but let's not get too off track. So, right. So Robert Alter is translating this as firebolts for them. Okay, let's get his commentary on that one. So from Sinai, that's over here. Wayomer Yahweh mi Sinai ba. So Yahweh came from Sinai, but literally, if these are all verbs that are related to shining, then this really means shone from Sinai, because the word for the sun rising is the same word here, which is ba. It's constantly used for the sun, for the rising sun, or the sun that comes out. They said the shemesh ba is shemesh yotze. The sun comes out and it comes out and then it kind of exits. That's the way it enters and it exits. So all right, so let's see here from Sinai. This poem, like the Song of Deborah and a few Psalms, registers what looks like an early tribal memory that the grand inception of Yahweh's relationship with Israel was to the south in the Sinai Peninsula, and in a series of associated sites, though there are some indications in the poetic texts that Mount Sinai might have been placed in northern Arabia. Okay, he's shown. And so this is verse 2. So what is he referring to? He's shown from Mount Paran, came, okay? I don't want to get too technical here, but I would have a couple more things to say. So he's shown. The choice of the verb, like the preceding dawned, reflects an early biblical poetic notion that the Lord's powerful, of the Lord's powerful appearance in awesome indulgence. I'm sorry, in awesome refulgence. Nice word, Robert Alter. Appeared from Midavot Kodesh. It is safest to construe the last term here as an otherwise unattested place name, although some scholars understand it as the myriads of Kadesh, or the myriads of the holy ones. The verb for appeared or came is the Hebrew cognate for the Aramaic atah, which in early biblical Hebrew is restricted to poetic diction. Okay, so I see. So they're saying, okay. Again, it's a bit technical. So they're treating this as a verb. And that's weird. So let's just look at it for a second. Come. Deuteronomy 33. No, I see. And then only in Job, Isaiah. Oh, okay, so it does. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. So that does mean come in Hebrew only poetry. Okay. Okay. Again, let's get a little, oh boy. Plug in. Little Robert Alter. So then we have this firebolts, the Hebrew ishdat, anachronistically construed by later Hebrew exegetes to mean fire of the law, is not intelligible. Absolutely, he's right. Okay. And as he mentions, very importantly, later Hebrew exegetes to mean fire of the law or fiery law. It's often translated as, doesn't make any sense because this word for law, dot, is a much later word. Really, probably even a Persian or at least a Babylonian word. Probably Persian. Since God in biblical poetry, following Canaanite conventions, is often represented coming down to earth, hurling lightning bolts as his weapons, this translation embraces the proposal that the text originally read ish doleket, burning or racing fire, or something similar. So he's saying there's been an error in the text. Okay, again, that's a secular point of view. Who knows? Maybe. This is all very technical, and I don't want to get bogged down with it. Okay, this would be more for, let's say we had an advanced class in biblical Hebrew. This would be a good place for it. But I did want to clarify for myself. It makes a lot more sense now. And okay, but we're going to move on. And I've got to plug in. What are we down to? 10%. So hang on for a second. Oh, I don't even have to hang on. Right here. Just get my plug. So any updates from Israel? Maybe we should take a look at that, see what's going on. while I plug in. So let's see. We can go to, I guess, the Jerusalem Post. Times of Israel. Well, the Times of Israel are a little bit more organized, even though they're left wing, very left wing, way too left wing for my tastes, but whatever. So, agree, sure. Take my cookies and shove them up here. You know what? Okay. Let's see what the latest is in Israel. Oh boy. Horrible. Palestinian terrorists transport an abducted Israeli civilian from kibbutz Kfar Aza into the Gaza Strip. Oh my God, that poor person. Oh, horrible. No, I'm going to disable my ad blocker. Thousands of units of blood donated. God, why is this thing so damn slow? IDF regains control of Ra'im military base from Hamas terrorists in southern Israel. U.S. Come on now. UN envoy calls on Security Council to condemn Hamas. Okay, what else is new? U.S. defense, he's useless. IDF says troops have killed hundreds of terrorists. Okay. 4 Hamas terrorists holding 2 Israelis hostage for hours in an Ofakim apartment. Okay. Hamas claims to be holding dozens of Israeli soldiers and officers in the Gaza Strip. Maybe. UN Security Council, who cares? EU, who cares? Man says his wife, 2 young children, mother-in-law in Gaza. Video of hostages. Horrible. Okay. Okay. IDF strikes 2 high-rise towers in Gaza used to house Hamas terrorists. Terror group threatens Tel Aviv. Okay. Okay. This idiot using it for his own political advantage, of course. Welcome to Israel. Lloyd Austin, useless. I think we get the idea. Anyway, horrible. Okay, we get the idea, right? So that's the update. I guess we'll check it out again. Alrighty, right. I've got to plug in. So just give me a second here. Okay, we're plugged in just in time. Okay, so okay, let's go on. Next verse. And again, these poetic chapters are always very slow going because they're poetry. Okay, Af Haver Amim, Kol Kidoshav, Biadecha, Wahem, Ku Le Raglecha, Isa Mi Dab Rotecha. I think I'm just going to go for English translations on this because otherwise we'll be here for like hours trying to pick these things apart. So Robert Alter goes with, yes, lover of the peoples is he, and all his holy ones in your hand, and they are flung down at your feet. He bears your utterances. Okay. I don't even know what that means in English. Let's look at maybe Everett Fox and see how he translates some of this stuff, so we can get at least a second translation, because he's pretty good too. Oops. It's very hard to scroll up and down these things. Okay, so oops. So Robert Alter, Everett Fox does. Okay, this is verse 2. He said, Yahweh from Sinai came. He shone forth from Seir for them, radiating from Mount Paran, approaching from Rivavot Kodesh, at his right hand, a fiery stream for them. Verse 3. Though his affection for the peoples, all his holy ones are in your hand. They place themselves at your feet, bearing your words. Okay, good enough. Let's not get bogged down. We're going to move forward. Let's read it one more time. Af havev amim, kol kidoshav biyadecha, wahem tku le'raglecha, isa vidabrotecha. Okay, and this is a famous verse. And this one's actually easy to translate. Torah siwa lanu Moshe murasha ki'ilat Yaakov. So this is sung all the time in rabbinical synagogues. Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Torah tziva lanu Moshe. All right, so Moses commanded to us the Torah, or instruction. Morashah, it is a inheritance for the congregation of Jacob. Okay, let's get a commentary on that one. So, all right, and just on the previous verse, Robert Alter says this entire verse is one of the most problematic in the poem. Its principal difficulty is the epithet "lover of the peoples," for God is peculiar, and one is constrained by the etc., etc. Okay, let's go on to verse 4. A teaching. Since Moses here is referred to in the third person, the simplest way to understand this without amending the line is an exclamation of the people, hence the quotation marks in the translation. Okay, let's see how he does the translation. So he puts it in quotation marks because otherwise it's Moses calling himself Moses, right? Because this is Moses speaking. Or is it? Because it says in verse 1, this is the blessing which Moses, the man of God, spoke to the children of Israel, or blessed the children of Israel with before his death. Yomer, Yahweh, and then Yomer, and he said, Torah Tziva. Okay. So if it is Moses speaking here, then I guess what Robert Alter is saying is he's kind of quoting the people saying this. I don't know. That's kind of a little bit contrived, but whatever. It could be Moses. Moses speaks about himself in the third person a lot throughout the Torah for one reason or another. So, but at any rate, what it does mean is Moses commanded us the Torah as an inheritance for the congregation of Yaakov. Wayehi b'Yishurun Melech, v'hit asef rashi am yahad shiftei Israel. And there was in Yishurun is the pet name for Israel. It'd be like calling your friend, I don't know, if you had a friend named Charles, calling him Chuck or something like that. So Yishurun is the pet name for Israel, right? You could even see what Yud Shin Resh. So the first three letters, well, Shin Sin. similar letters or same letters actually in ancient Hebrew. So this means Israel. So Waihivi Shurun Melech. So there was a king in Israel. Is it speaking about Moses or is it speaking about God? When the heads of the people are gathered together. I would translate this as when the heads of the people gathered together as the tribes of Israel, or maybe something like that. Okay, let's get a Robert Alter on this one. The poet clearly envisages a grand assembly of all the tribes, and obviously pre-monarchic event to confirm God's kingship over Israel. Jeshurun is, of course, an epithet for Israel. The flourish concludes the introductory section of the poem and sets up for the blessings of the tribes one by one. So now we're going to get into the blessings. Let's see how Everett Fox translates this one. Now he became a king in Yeshurun when there gathered the heads of the people together, the tribes of Israel. So I guess from this translation, it seems that Everett Fox believes that it's speaking about Moses being the king. I think so too. Okay, and now we go on to the blessings of the tribes. So we're going to start with Reuven. Yahi Reuven, Wa'al Yamoth, Wayahi Mitao Mispar. Okay, so may Reuven live and not die, and may he be great in number. So this is the firstborn of Jacob. I'm sorry. Urgent words. Let's get also Everett Fox on this one. But let his menfolk be few in number. Okay, got it. Matemispar, right? Small in number. So I guess this is kind of a blessing. A blessing inside a curse, or a curse inside a blessing. We know from the end of Genesis that Reuven was kind of cursed. He was taken away from being the firstborn, or his firstborn privileges were removed from him because of this incident where he had relations with his father's concubine, with Bilhah. And so if we go by these two translations that we saw, Robert Alter and Everett Fox. So Yahi Reuven Wero Yamat. Let Reuven live and not die, but let his numbers be small. Let him be small in numbers. So, and this is also play on words, because here we have Lo Yamut, may he not die. And here we have Wahi Mitao Mispar, may he be small in number. And these words sound similar to each other. Yamot and Mitao. They both have the mem and the tuf, but I don't think they're related to each other etymologically. Okay. Interesting. I just want to read this for myself. And so some of the translations actually say the opposite. Not that he should be small in number, but let him not be small in number. Let me just see one thing here. One second. So we can look at this verse to see how that word is used. So the BDB is saying it means men or men of fighting age. And this is Deuteronomy 2:34. and this is just giving a recap of the various journeys of Israel in the desert. So this, I believe, is, oh, let's see. Okay, so this is talking about the defeat of Sichon, one of the kings of the Amorites, one of these giant kings, Sichon and Og. And it says here, verse 34, one Nilkod, and we captured it called Arao, we captured all of his cities, at the time, wa Nahrem et kol ir, and we basically, I usually translate Nahrem as set aside for destruction. The entire city, Mitim, Wahanashim, Wahataf, the men, the women, and the children. Lo Hishanu Sarid, and we did not leave a single survivor. And here's that word, Mitom or Mitim, and they're translating this as men or men of fighting age, the men, the women, and the children. So we go back to here, Mitei Mispar, Yahir Ruven wa Al Yamot wa Yehi Mitau Mispar. So if we understand this to mean men of number, then literally this would say, may Reuven live and not die, and may he have men or may he have numbers of men, meaning maybe implying large numbers of men. But we do see this phrase, Matei Mispar, put together as two words or as a phrase in other places. And again, this is all very poetic stuff, and that's why we have to, we have to kind of move here slowly, but that's just the way it is. So if we look here, I just want to see Mitam Anashim. Right. So in Deuteronomy 4:27, or maybe a better example is Genesis 34:30. And this is Jacob. This is when Reuven and Shimon attack the city of Shechem, and they basically wipe the city out. And then Jacob says, where did we go? Wayomer Yaakov El Shimon wa El, I'm sorry, not Reuven and Shimon, Shimon Levi. Oops. Why can't I grab that whole thing? Okay, good enough. God, it's annoying. Let's try it again. Okay, Yomer Yaakov El Shimon wa El Levi, and Jacob said to Shimon and Levi, Akartamoti, you have uprooted me, Lavi Sheni, be Yoshvei Haaretz, to make me a stink. In other words, to give me a bad smell among the inhabitants of the land. This is after Shimon and Levi went into the city of Shechem and wiped out the entire city because the son of the king of Shechem basically raped their sister Dinah. But Yesheva Aretz, Kenani v'Frizi, you've made me a stink in the nose of the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Vani mitei mispar, and I am, and this literally means, or this phrase here from the context clearly means small in number, but it really literally means men of number or men of small number, perhaps. And they will gather. They will gather up against me, and they will smite me. And I and my household will be destroyed. So Matei Mispad, when we see these words together, means small in number, but literally it means men of number or men of small number, I guess. And again, if we go back here to our verse, so if you want to take it as word for word, then it means may Reuven live and not die, and but yet may he be small in number. And that would be in line with the curse we saw for Reuven in the end of Genesis. Again, Reuven was basically cursed by his father Jacob over some incident which is just really mentioned in passing, where Reuven has sexual relations with his father's concubine, with Bilhah. Okay. And again, let's see what Robert Alter says. Oops. Okay. This is it right here. That's really annoying. This is from Judah. Okay, that's already gone down to Judah. 1 second here. Wait up. Okay, actually that. Okay. Yes, love of people who teach you Moses teach us. I heard blah 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 blah. Yeah. Though his menfolk be but few. So that's the way Robert Alter translates that. Blessing for Jacob. I'm sorry, for Reuven. And commentary on that one. Let Reuven, blah blah blah. These urgent words, more prayer than blessing, obviously reflect a moment in early Israelite history when the tribe of Reuven, inhabiting territory east of the Jordan, habitually threatened by marauders, perhaps also in the process of being swallowed up by the neighboring god, appeared to run the risk of extinction. Okay, I don't know if I go for that, but whatever. Okay, that's that. Now the cat is hungry and is staring at me, so I've got to now feed the cat for a second. It'll just take a second. So just hold on. Come here, Shushy boy. Sean, come here. Shushy boy, come here. Come. Come. All right. You ate enough today. You got the Shushy boy. Okay. Watch your tail, Shushy boy. Watch your tail. Okay, we found a kitten about maybe now it's been May, June, July, August, September, maybe 4.5 months ago, and he is just ravenous. Okay, but we let him eat as much as we have. Taliban says we will conquer Jerusalem if countries of the Middle East grant us passage to Israel. No, that ain't gonna happen. Okay. So the Taliban, are they going to come all the way from Afghanistan? Huh. So let's see which countries would have to grant them passage. Let's look at that for a second. That's just grandstanding. That's just talking big. That ain't happening. All right, let's see here. So here's Afghanistan. So here's the Taliban. Let's blow this up a little bit. I'd like to blow it up a lot. So here's Afghanistan. So they have to go through Iran. Okay, no problem. Iran will let them through and give them supplies, right? It's not just enough for them to go through. They're going to need supplies. They're going to need food and all that crap. Then Iraq. Is Iraq going to let them through? Maybe. Then Syria. They have to go through either Syria. Syria would let them through, I guess, or Jordan. Jordan ain't going to let them through unless something changes. And Saudi Arabia ain't going to let them through at this point because Saudi Arabia is trying to pretend it wants to make peace with Israel. So they would have to go from Afghanistan all the way through Iran, where they would probably pick up a bunch more fighters. Then they'd have to go through Iraq, which is basically kind of American controlled at this point. So I don't know if that would happen. Or they'd have to go through one of the Gulf states over here, Kuwait. Kuwait ain't going to let them through. They ain't going to get through Saudi Arabia. So they would have to go through Iraq, which is kind of American controlled at this point. And then Jordan ain't going to let them through. So then they'd have to go through Syria. Okay. Syria might or might not let them through. Syria has enough problems of its own. So who knows? I don't think that's going to happen. Nah, it's all baloney. Taliban ain't come to Israel. Nonsense. Kicked on Twitter since you mentioned Israel was under attack? What? don't know what you mean. You mean kicked off of Twitter? Okay, who cares? Let's see. I doubt it. I didn't really say anything too ridiculous. Let's see. Twitter, or as they always say, X, formerly known as Twitter. Elon Musk is sorry to see what's happening in Israel. All right, Insights one? Can't remember. It's the World Alliance of Qara'im one. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares about Twitter? It's useless. There we go. Yeah, I'll see. Kicked off of Twitter. I'm still on there. Okay. Okay. What do we got? 1 second. Okay. So oh no, I checked on kicked on Twitter. Ah. Okay. Nah, Taliban. They ain't going nowhere. They're gonna stay in Afghanistan and okay. All right. So let's go on. Now we get to Judah. So what's interesting now is Judah is not the second born, and in Genesis 49, the second blessing goes to Levi, who is the second born. I'm sorry, Shimon is the second born, Levi is the third born, Judah is the fourth born. So now we're changing the order. So now it goes directly to Judah from Reuven. And let's see what the blessing is for Judah. Uzot la Yehuda wa Yomar Shema Yahweh Kol Yehuda wa El Amo Tevienu Yadao Ravlo wa Ezer Misarav Ti'eh. Okay, and this is for Judah. Yomer, and he said, and Moses said, Shema Yahweh, listen, Yahweh. Call Yehuda, to the voice, to the call of Judah. El Amo Tivienu, and bring him to his people. What does that mean? That can mean a lot of things. Yadao Ravlo, may his hands be great in number for him, literally, but maybe mighty for him. Wa'ezer mitzara'ao ti'eh, and be a help for him against his enemies. Again, very poetic. Not really saying that much. Just kind of these nice blessings so far, but let's see if we can get a little commentary on that one. So Robert Alter translates that one as, and this is for Judah, and he said, hear, Lord, Judah's voice, and to his people you shall bring him, whatever that means. With his hands he strives for himself, a help against his foes you shall be. Okie dokie. Verse 7, to his people you shall bring him. Jeffrey H. Guy plausibly suggests that the reference is to bringing him back safe from battle. Oh, that makes sense. The next line, in fact, invokes combat. I like that. That actually makes sense. Joshi boy, what are you doing? Robert Alter Everett Fox translates that one as and this to Judah, he said, hearken, O Yahweh, to the voice of Yehuda, to his king's people bring him, his hand's strength great for him, a help against his foes, may you be. Okay, that's that. And I guess we can go for some other commentaries. Let's see. What other commentary can we go for? We haven't used this one in a long time. This is the, whatchamacallit again? Okay, bar for 1 hour. Sure. The biblical cultures version or something like that. Let's see what they have to say. Numbers 24. Oh, I think we overshot the landing pad. Way overshot the landing pad. Back to here. Joshua. Okay, getting close. Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 33. Oh, this is nice and smooth. Okay, the rock. Well, we got to go back up. No, that's 32. Where did Deuteronomy 33 go? There it is. Okay, so there it is. Judah. And I'm going to do this thingy here. So here's the blessing of Judah. And he said this about Judah: "Hear, Lord, the cry of Judah. Bring him to his people. With his own hands, he defends his cause. Oh, be his help against the foes." I gotta get rid of that. And let's see if there's any commentary on that. Nope, none. Okay. Now we get to Levi. Lewi Amar Tumecha Wat We Urecha Leish Hasidecha Asher Nisito Masa Tarivehu Al Me Meriba. Okay. So Levi, he said, your Tumim and your Urim. Remember the Urim and the Tumim. Nobody knows exactly what it is, but it's part of the high priest's garments. And it's used as an oracle. You can ask the Urim and the Tumim questions, and somehow or another they can answer. There's a lot of speculation as to what it is. Some say it's the gemstones that are on the Choshen HaMishpat, the breastplate of judgment. Others say it's a pocket inside the Levite's clothing. But whatever it is, it's the Urim and the Tumim. It's some kind of oracular device where you can inquire of Yahweh using the Urim and Tumim. So, and this is in the province of Levi, because the Kohen Gadol would have the Urim, would be the only person to have the Urim and Tumim. He would wear them on him. And so that's what that is referring to. So your Tumim and your Urim, and it's interesting that I guess poetically they're saying not the Urim and the Tumim, but the Tumim and the Urim. Leish Hasidecha. So Hasid. All right, let's get a translation for this one again because it's kind of poetic. 8. So Robert Alter translates this one as, and for Levi, he said, your Turim and your Umim, for your devoted man whom you tested at Massah, you disputed with him at the waters of Meribah. So he translates Hasid or Hasidecha as your devoted man. A Hasid is someone who's very dedicated or devoted. Let's see where else it appears, if anywhere, to be honest. Yeah, it does. Right. Okay. Your devoted men or your devoted one, Asher nisito b'masa etarivehu al me meribah, which you tested him at Massah, and you argued with him or fought with him at the waters of Meribah. So we have now again this reference to these rebellions regarding water at the waters of Meribah, and that was Aaron was involved with that. So again, a lot of self-referential stuff. Let's see what commentary we have here from Robert Alter. Okay, your Tumim and your Urim, these oracular devices, see the comment on Exodus 28:30, appear in all other occurrences with Urim in first position, right? So we just mentioned that it's usually Urim and Tumim, not Turim, but Tumim and Urim. Perhaps the reversal was encouraged by the poetic form. That's pretty much exactly what we just said. Okay, whom you tested it at Massah, the story of the waters of Massah and Meribah, Exodus 17:2-7 makes no mention of a crucial role for the Levites. One may infer that this early poem drew on a narrative tradition and not reflected in the story told in the Torah. So maybe we should, this has already been referred to a number of times, these waters of Meribah. Let's look at that very briefly because it's the reason Moses isn't going into the land as well. So this is Exodus, what do we say? Exodus 17. Let's look at that. Hello, you guys had a nice walk?
We saw a cat that looked just like.
Maybe. The Taliban has reportedly asked Iran for passage to Israel to help Hamas continue its terror against the Jewish state. Okay, well, it's not just enough to ask Iran. He's right here, because you got to go through other countries as well. All right, it ain't happening. It's just nonsense. Okay, so right. So if we go to Exodus 17. So this is the famous story of the water from the rock. Let's go over that again. So why is call adat bnei Israel midbar sin? So this is before they get to Mount Sinai. They're not yet at Mount Sinai. They're on their way to Mount Sinai. They've exited from Egypt. Al pi Yahweh. So the entire witnessing community, the entire Jehovah's Witnesses, the witnesses of the children of Israel. Again, I call it adat because it's probably based on the word aid. It could be based on the word it could be related to the word mo'ed, which means coming together from the underlying root ya'ad, but I'll just call it I've been translating it as the witnessing community, whatever the heck that means, meaning Jehovah's Witness, the real Jehovah's Witnesses. Waisu kol adat bnei Israel. I shouldn't say whatever the heck it means. It means something very clear. It means the witnesses of it literally means, it implies Jehovah's Witnesses, the real Jehovah's Witnesses, those who are the witnesses of Yahweh's greatness. That's, if this word Adah is referring to that, then that is what the children of Israel are being called in this and many other places. Okay, so all of the witnessing community of the children of Israel traveled from the desert of Sin along their journeys or on their journeys al pi Yahweh, according to the instructions, literally according to the mouth of Yahweh, Yahanu b'Refidim, and they encamped in a place called Refidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. This is Exodus 17, verse 2. Wa ya'arev ha'am im Moshe, and the people argued with Moses, or fought with Moses. They argued would be a better translation. We amru, dunu lanu mayim v'nishteh. And they said, give us water so that we can drink. Wayomer lahem Moshe, and Moses said to them, Ma tirivuni im'adi. Why you? And Moses said to them, why are you arguing with me? Ma tinasun et Yahweh. Why are you tempting, or why are you testing Yahweh? Or maybe better that you test Yahweh, might be a different translation. Verse 3. Wa itzma sham ha'am lamayim. Wa yalena am al Moshe. So but the people were thirsty for water, and they complained, and the people complained against Moshe. ויאמר למה זה העליתנו ממצרים להמית אותי ואת בני ואת בניי ואת מקני בצמא. And they said to him, why have you brought us, what have you done here that you've brought us out of Egypt to kill us off, to kill me and my children and my livestock off in the desert by dying of thirst? Verse 4. ויצעק משה אל יהוה לאמור, and Moses cried out, or maybe even yelled at. Yitzhak kind of implies, yeah, they translate his cried out. We'll go with cried out. So Moses cried out to Yahweh and said, or saying, Ma sel amazeh, what should I do for these people, or to these people? Odmat kaluni. If I don't do something soon, they're going to stone me to death. Literally, a bit more, and they're going to stone me. Verse 5. ויאמר יהוה אל משה, and Yahweh said to Moses, עבור לפני העם וקח איתך מזקני ישראל. And Yahweh said to Moses, pass before the people, or pass among the people, and take with you the elders of Israel. ומתך אשר הכית בו את היאור קח בידיך והלכת. And the staff which you used to strike the Nile River, remember that, right? He struck the Nile River and it turned to blood. Kach biadcha, or actually a number of different, well, actually literally striking the Nile River. I guess that was just with blood. Any rate, take the staff in your hand and go. Verse 6. This is God continuing to speak. Hineni omed lifanecha sham. I will stand before you there. Al tzur. B'horev wahikita b'tzur. I will stand before you there on the rock at Horev, and Horev is Mount Sinai. Wahikita b'tzur, and you shall smite the rock, you shall strike the rock. V'yatsu mimenu mayim, v'shata ha'am. You'll strike the rock, and water will come out of it, and the people will drink. V'yasken Moshe l'einei ziknei Yisrael. And Moses did so before the elders of Israel, before the eyes of the elders of Israel. And he named the place, or he called the name of the place, Masa Umiribah. And he called the name of the place Masa Umiribah, and we'll talk about what that means in just a second. Al Riv Bnei Israel, because of the argument with the children of Israel. Well, there it says exactly why. And because of their testing Yahweh, Lemor Hayesh Yahweh Bikirbenum, saying, is Yahweh really among us, or is he not? So Masa Umiribah is the name of the place. Masa comes from the underlying word linnasot, to test, which is this word we have here. And miribah comes from the underlying word riv, which we have here, which means to argue. So masa miribah literally means testing and argument. That was the name of the place. And we even have reference to that back up here. Where was it? So it even starts here. Moses says to them, why are you arguing with me? And why are you testing Yahweh? Arguing and testing. And that theme comes up a number of times. So here we have, why are you arguing with me? And why are you testing Yahweh? And then we have over here, and there we have it again. Right. So this is this verse over here. Okay. So that was the name of the place. Testing and argument. Sounds like a very technical name for a place. Okay. Okay. So that's that. So that's what this is referring back to over here. And Robert Alter is pointing out that there's no explicit connection between the Levites and Masa and Meribah. And I'm sorry, it wasn't the same thing as where Moses hit the rock and said, "You rebels." That was a different place. Okay. But this is what this is somehow referring to. Ish chasidecha asher amar tumecha ve'orecha leish chasidecha asher ni sito b'masa karivehu al mei meribah. But this is referring back to that incident. All right, let's move on. Okay. האומר לאביהו ולאמו לא ראיתיהו ואת אחיו לא הכיר ואת בניו לא ידע. We'll go up to there. So literally what it says there is, and he says, and this is speaking about Lewi, I guess, to his father and to his mother, lo ra'iti, lo re'itau, lo re'itiv, I did not see him, with echau, lo hikir, and he did not recognize his brothers. What? Banao lo yada, and he did not know his children. All right, let's see what that might mean. Who says of his father and mother, I have not seen them, and his brothers he recognized not, and his sons he did not know. And let's get a little commentary on that one. Oops. It's over here. All right, so that's verse 9. The reference is so obscure, but this sounds rather like the Levites' ruthless denial of kinfolk and playing the role of the Lord's avengers in the episode of the golden calf. Oh, that's interesting. Exodus 32, 26 to 29. Perhaps the same motif was attached to Levites in an early story about Masa and Meribah that did not survive elsewhere. Huh. That's interesting. That sounds like a logical explanation, actually. So if we look at that, so literally what it says here, and this is speaking about Levi, he says of his father and of his mother, I have not seen them, or I have not recognized them, but Elachiv lo ikir, and of his brothers that he didn't know them, banav lo yadan, and he didn't know, different word for know, but same idea, that he didn't know his children. And so what this commentary is saying here is this is referring back to Exodus 32. Let's look at that for 1 second. So this is the incident of the golden calf. And we know at the end, what's the exact verses? 26. So we have over here, we'll start here, 26. Oops. And Moses stood in the gate, the entrance to the camp. And he said, who is for Yahweh? To me. And all of the children of Levi gathered to him, assembled to him, or gathered to him. And he said to them, this is after the golden calf, and Moses is now going to send out punishment. He's going to send the Levites out to slay all those who were involved in the golden calf. And he said to them, meaning to the children of Levi, so says Yahweh, the God of Israel, Simu ish harbo al Yericho. Let each man put his sword on his loin, meaning gird his sword, prepare a sword. Ivru, vishuvu, misha'ar lisha'ar. Go back and forth. Oh shoot, what is going on here? Let's try that again. Oh shoot. What is going on? It's acting weird lately. Hello? Damn it. Why is it stuck? What the heck is going on here? Oh boy. Whole thing is stuck. Let's try that again. Stuck. Why? Oh boy. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but it's stuck, so I'm just gonna have to wait a second here. Technical issues. That's the way it is. Charging this bad. It's still stuck. I have no idea whether you guys can hear me or not, but this stupid beach ball is turning. So I just have to wait for it to stop. I don't know why this has been happening a couple of times lately. Do but wait. Still doing this. God. All right. So Marianne says she can still hear me. There's nothing I can do. This thing is stuck. I'm going to wait another minute or so. And if so, I'm going to have to restart the, at least quit Chrome. Can I even quit Chrome? I'm not even sure I can even quit Chrome. It's just completely stuck. There's nothing I can do. It's just not responding. I would have to restart the computer. And I don't want to do that. So let me give it another minute or two. I don't know why it does this sometimes. It's been doing it lately. I can't put on any music or anything. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. I think according to Marianne, you can. Marianne, can you text me again if you can hear me? All right, maybe what I could do is come on. I think I'm just gonna have to restart the thingy. You hear me? Okay. So this computer is literally frozen here. And I just have the stupid beach ball going around and around and around. I can't do anything. I can't change windows or anything. It's basically like stuck. It's not responding. And I think I'm going to have to do this. All right, let me do it this way. All right, hold on 1 second, people. Technology. Still doing it. I don't know why it's been doing this lately. So I'll go on my phone, StreamYard. Oh, sure. There's no Kanyako, sure. Wow. Sure. Enter. Only the host can see. The host may add you to the stage at any time. I can't do it. All right. I think I'm going to have to restart the computer. Guys are going to have to hang on. I will be back in hopefully about 5 minutes, but I have no choice. I have to restart the computer. One second. I think I'm here. All right, I think I'm back. Hey, Yonatan, do you want to give an update as to what's going on in Israel to the Torah study group I'm doing right now?
No,
You don't? Why?
I'm very humble. I'm not a professional. I just know what I know, but I don't want to do that. I will tell you privately, and that's it.
Okay, hold on. All right, so hold on. Let me put my headphones on and you can tell me privately. 1 second. All right, are we back? One second, Yonatan. 1 second. Let me just confirm I'm back. Am I back?
I want to scream what I'm saying.
Yeah. 1 second. One second. All right. Can you guys hear me on the Torah study? Someone let me know. Yonatan, nobody can hear you. I'm on the headphones right now. Because I want to get an update from Israel. But nobody can hear you. Okay? Okay, so you people can hear me. All right, so what's going on there? So this is my friend Yonatan. He's going to give us an update from Israel, but he doesn't want to be on the air, so he's going to tell me, and I'll just break it down and tell everybody. So what's the story there? Right. Right. Yeah. All right, stop. Okay, so there was a multi-pronged attack. We already know that. We heard that in the news. Yeah, go on, Yonatan. Uh-huh. Right. Right. Okay, but what's going on? So tell us what happened in Jerusalem, because you live in Jerusalem, Yonatan. Go ahead. So the first rockets. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Okay. Right. All right. This is hold on. It's not working this way. Are you sure I can't just put your voice on the thingy? No one knows who you are. All right, fine. All right, just tell me very quickly what's going on now. I don't need the whole story. What's the latest update? What's going on in Jerusalem? About 10. They infiltrated to, yeah, 10 communities, 12 communities in the south, yeah. Right. They came up to people's doors and shooting, yeah. Shooting at buildings, uh-huh. They go inside. Right. Do they have any idea how many hostages they took altogether? No idea. It's still unknown. Right. Right. Could be in the tens of people who were taken hostage. Okay, yeah. 150 Israelis killed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 200 Israelis in critical condition. Yeah. And what about Jerusalem specifically? What about? Okay, 900 Israelis injured, not critical. Yeah. And what about what's going on specifically in Jerusalem? No rockets hit inside Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rocket hits in Tel Aviv. In Rishon. Oh, in Tel Aviv. Okay. I thought it was in Rishon LeZion. Right. 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 Okay. Right. Okay. All right. What's the idea? What do you think? You think that Hezbollah is going to open up a new front from the north? Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah. Of course. Right. Oh, do they? All right. Listen, I got to get back to my Torah study. Let me call you later. I get the general idea. Okay. All right. Bye. Okay. All right. So those some updates from my friend in Jerusalem. He said Jerusalem wasn't really hit so badly. There were sirens that went off in Jerusalem, and but Jerusalem itself was not hit inside the city. Apparently, there was now another attack on Tel Aviv. I think yes, C. With mentioned it, and yeah, it's pretty crazy there. I guess we can look. Let's see what the Times of Israel is saying. The left-wing Times of Israel. So this is the latest. Let me share the screen. Pretty crazy. Pray for Israel, that's for sure. But unfortunately, as I said, I don't want to use the words deserve it. That's not the right way to say it. But I will say that this is all a consequence, as I said at the beginning, my opening monologue, if you want to call it that. This is all a consequence of the people of Israel just worshiping foreign gods, either the God of the rabbinical Judaism or the God of, America, Coca-Cola and McDonald's. So it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the state of Israel, as we know it, will implode eventually. Is this the implosion? I don't know, but it's inevitable. This is certainly along the death throw. So what do we have here? Israel at war, 200 killed in Hamas assault, hostages taken to Gaza, rockets on Tel Aviv. Really horrible. Oh my God. Useless. The Israeli government, they're just absolutely useless. So what we have here is the death toll from the Hamas terror group's massive attack on Israel rises to more than 200. Hebrew language media reports say the toll is expected to rise higher. At least 1,100 have been wounded, many seriously. Hundreds of Hamas gunmen infiltrated into Israel this morning, crossing, we know that. Hamas claims to have abducted dozens of Israelis to Gaza. The IDF has confirmed that soldiers and civilians have been taken hostage, but has not specified a number. And these are the latest updates. 9 wounded in Rishon LeZion, Tel Aviv, Bat Yam, and Yavne during rocket barrage. We have good friends, Karaite friends in Bat Yam, so I want to check in with them. See. That's irrelevant, really. IDF hits Hamas terror targets and airstrikes. Wow. Big deal. And then we just get back to the news that I saw before. So that, I guess, that is the latest news, that there were rockets on Tel Aviv as of late. 6 minutes ago, yeah, we read all this stuff. Okay, well, that's what's going on. Sad, but true. All right. So really, I think more people have been killed, far more, in this little incursion from Hamas than were ever killed in either the first or second Gulf wars in Israel. I don't think anyone died in either of those wars in Israel, even though there were much longer range missiles and much more destructive. So I don't know. That's the update. Okay, we'll go back. We're going to do about another half an hour. I'm going to end in about a half an hour today. I have to go do something. But let's see where we were. So I think we were looking up. Okay, well, we'll go back to Deuteronomy. We'll go back to Deuteronomy. '33. And maybe I think what we should do, honestly, is where's my Hebrew? So these poems are hard to pick apart. They really are. And you really kind of have to sit through them and just pick them apart. So I think maybe what we're going to do is skip past the poem, actually, because I would like to finish off. One second. Asher. So this is the end of the blessings, okay? And they're all very nice and fine and beautiful. But let's skip ahead so we can actually finish off Deuteronomy in today's session, and we can get a little bit more into narrative and prose rather than the poetry, which is really, you really have to trudge through it. You kind of just have to sit down, examine each word, look at various commentaries. It's kind of very slow. It's very slow going. Okay. So let's go here. This is still kind of the poetry. So verse 26, but it'll get us into the next chapter, chapter 34. Ein el Yeshurun. There is none like the God over Yeshurun, or maybe alternatively, sometimes El is translated as the power of Yeshurun. Let's see what Robert Alter has to say about this one. So we're in Deuteronomy 33:26. Let me bring up the Robert Alter again, which got closed. Okay. Oops. So, chapter 33. Now we're going to go down to 26. Twenty-six. 26. 26. Okay, so there's none like the God of Yeshurun. Again, Yeshurun is kind of the nickname for Israel. Riding through heavens as your help. So here the Hebrew is Rochev Shamayim is Recha. So riding on the heavens as your help, as it said. And with his pride, or let's see, I'll translate it here, his excellency, Shechakim, and Shechakim is another word for the skies or the heavens, with his excellency. So again, we've got that classic biblical poetic parallelism. Rochev Shamayim be'ez recha. He rides through the heavens to help you. I would translate that as to be an aid for you. In other words, we have this vision of him riding through the heavens to come help Israel. And with his pride or his greatness, his excellency through the skies. So in El Yeshurun, there is none. Let's put it all together here. This is verse 26 again. There is none like the God of Yeshurun. Again, Yeshurun is one of the nicknames, is the nickname for Israel. I guess one of the nicknames, because you could also say Jacob is a nickname for Israel. But Yeshurun is one of the nicknames for Israel. It has the first three letters as Israel. Here, Yeshurun is Yud, Shin, Resh. Israel is Yud, Sin, Resh, Yisrael, Yeshurun. But Sin and Shin in ancient Hebrew were really interchangeable. It's not even clear if they were two different letters at all. They really weren't. Rochev Shamayim, he rides on the heavens, rides through the heavens, I would translate this as Recha, in order to help you, or as your help, literally. and in his excellency through the skies. So we get this image of Yahweh racing through the skies to help Israel, almost like a missile, right? We have many missiles. I don't want to sound too, silly, but there are many missiles racing through the sky right now towards Israel. But if we go by this verse, maybe this verse is actually just the verse that we needed to see for this particular Torah study, because Yahweh races through the sky to help Israel, almost like the real missile, right? The question is he going to help Israel? Ultimately, he always will, and he always does. But he will use the other nations as punishment against Israel when he feels they've gone off track. So yeah, Suri says, I'm pretty sure Israel has the means to strike anyone it sees the need to. It definitely has the means. The question is, does it have the will? And does it have the political fortitude to do so? Because, as I mentioned, most of the leaders of Israel, they're traditional Jews, but they don't really have a deep faith in Yahweh. And of course, it's easier said than done. I mean, it's really hard to, put your own people at risk. But I don't know if they have the proper faith in Yahweh to really have the bitzim, the balls to do what really, really needs to be done. And I'm not just saying this out of nowhere. This is what we've seen many, many, many times. We see the same pattern. This is just worse than the other ones, a lot worse than the other ones. But Hezbollah will attack or Hamas will attack, and Israel will just go in there. They'll drop a couple of bombs on Gaza. They'll quiet everything down, and then Hezbollah or Hamas, they'll say, okay, we are going to now, we're now going to make a peace treaty, and Israel always accepts it without doing what they really need to do to solve the situation at its heart, and then everything goes back to the status quo. Will that happen this time? Well, this is different. This is a huge, huge escalation. So, so this is nothing like the previous ones with a couple of missiles falling here and there. This is a completely different level. However, I know Israel better than it knows itself, if I could say it that way. And I know that the leadership is ultimately, they're a bunch of cowards. Their real God is the West and the United States of America. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu walks around with his stupid suit and tie and talks like an American, and with his perfect American accent, because he went to MIT, and I think he lived in Boston and Philadelphia, and I don't know, he sold furniture, owned a furniture store. I don't know what the heck the guy did. I don't even remember. But his real boss, his real God, is the United States of America and the West, and that's why Israel doesn't really, in their war footing, they don't really follow the rules of the Torah. Okay, if they were to follow the rules of the Torah, they would go into Gaza and they would just burn the place down to the ground. I mean, like, they would literally, they would go in there. Okay, what really should be done and what really needs to be done, I better not even say it because I'm afraid that, this video can get blocked. But go read Deuteronomy 20 and you'll get the idea of the Tanakhic way that we're supposed to fight a war. But Israel is constantly, they're doing it the Western way, where they're worrying about the civilians, and we don't want to hurt the poor civilians, and so they don't really give a real response, to say the least, and they certainly don't give a Tanakhic level response. They do not get biblical on their asses, on the asses of the Gazans. Let's put it that way. You guys probably know that line, or most of you, right? So, but I'll leave it for your imagination as to what should be done. And if I were running the show, not that I am or ever will be, but what would be done? Let's put it this way: there wouldn't be much less left of Gaza after I got through with them. I'll put it that way. Okay. So, getting back to the Torah. Right. So, but we have this image of God riding through the skies to save Israel, right? Maybe this is the verse here that is totally relevant to us. Maybe it's almost mina shamayim, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended. Maybe it's from the heavens that we should even see this verse, because we see, again, all of the missiles riding through the sky to attack Israel. And this verse says that Yahweh rides through the skies. He rides upon the heavens to come save Israel. So we will hope Be'ezrat Yahweh that Yahweh will keep whatever punishment he's decided to give against. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Tsuri. They do not have the testicular fortitude to strike the way it should. Exactly what I'm saying. And this is not just my imagination. Look in the history. Look every single time this kind of thing has happened. What the Israeli government has done, nothing. Nothing. And even those on the right wing are well aware of that. And that's one of the reasons that they ran and won, from their right wing perspective. Okay. So, anywho, let's get back to here. Mi'ona Elohe Kedem. Umitachat Izraot Olam. Okay. Again, we're back into the poetry. So Ma'on is a dwelling place. Okay, the translate is refuge, dwelling place. In modern Hebrew, Ma'on is like a dormitory or something like that. Elohe Kedem. So I guess your dwelling place, Elohe Kedem, your refuge is the God of old or the God of ancient times. Mitachat Zroot Olam. So literally, and under the arms of eternity or forever, or oh boy, this is a tough one to translate. All right, let's get a translation on that one. Let's see what Robert Alter makes of that one. And again, makes of it is the key phrase here, because a lot of it is just speculation. It's all very poetical stuff. Okay, so refuge, the God of old, from beneath the arms everlasting. I don't even know what that means in the English. A refuge of the God of old, so that makes sense, right? So Mi'ona Elohe Kedem. So the God of Kedem means literally going backwards in time, or of time far back. Kedem really means backwards or behind you. Actually, it doesn't. It means in front of you. It's a bit complicated. So it means in front of you, but it really means looking backwards. Because how can I explain this? It's like you're turned around looking backwards. Kedem can also mean the east, to the east. And that's because if you're looking towards the rising sun, it's like you're looking backwards where the sun came out of. Yes, I know it's a bit confusing, but that's that's the way it works in biblical Hebrew. So Mi'ona Elohe Kedem. So, but Kedem in this case means basically you're turned around, figuratively speaking, looking back towards the beginning of time. So if you're looking backwards in time, then it's forwards from your point of view, but it's backwards in time, if that makes any sense. Because the word Kedem really means in front of you or forward. Like in modern Hebrew, or not even in modern Hebrew, in biblical Hebrew, you have the word kadima, which means forward. Okay, so Me'ona Elohim Kedem. So the refuge is from the God of old. That's the way they usually translate it, but it really means the God of the beginning of time. Mitachat Zroot Olam, and from under the arms of an Olam also is another word of saying the beginning of time, or perhaps the beginning of the world, may be a better way to state it. Although the word Olam in modern Hebrew means the world. In biblical Hebrew, it really doesn't mean that at all. It really means from the beginning of time, or we could say from when the world was created, if we want to say it that way. So your refuge, or the refuge, meaning the refuge of Israel, is the God of the beginning, or the God of ancient times. It's usually translated as, and under the arms of Olam, of the God who's been around since before the beginning of the world. Maybe we can translate it that way. Wa yi garesh mipanecha oyev. This one's an easy one to translate. And he expels the enemy from before him. Uyomer hashmed. And he declares destroy. Okay. So he drove from before you the enemy, and he said, destroy. That's how Robert Alter deals with that one. Everett Fox. Oh, now we got to go back to find Everett Fox's thingy. There. Larger. So Everett Fox translates this as shelter is the ancient God beneath the arms of the ageless one. I like that translation. That's a good one. He drove out from before the enemy, saying, destroy. Okay. And we can get a Robert Alter commentary on that one. Riding through the heavens, the image of God is a celestial warrior riding a cherub through the skies, is drawn from Canaanite poetry and appears a number of times in Psalms and elsewhere. It is worth noting that the word for help, ezer, often has a sense of rescue from military threat. Okay. From beneath the arms everlasting that is, God embraces or physically supports Israel. Okay, good enough. All right, let's go on to verse 28. Up to this verse let. I think it's actually called the verset, but I like to call the verse let. Sounds better. וישכון ישראל בטח בדד עין יעקב אל ארץ דרן ותירוש. So Yishkon, Israel dwelled betach, in safety. Badad, by itself, alone. Ein Yaakov, Badad Ein Yaakov, literally alone with the eye of Jacob. We'll have to pick that one apart and see what that we're trying to say there. El Eretz Daran v'Tirosh, on the land or into the land or upon the land of grain and wine. Okay, let's try to make some sense out of this. So Waishkon Yisrael betach. So yeah, so Israel dwelled in safety. That's clear enough. Badad Ein Yaakov. So I'm not sure what the heck that is saying. Badad means alone. Ein Yaakov means the eye of Jacob, or Ein can also mean the wellspring or the spring, like the water spring of Jacob. I don't know. We'll have to maybe consult the commentary and see what their opinion is on that. And this one is also clear. Eretz Dagan with Tirosh, in a land of grain and wine. Af Shamav Ya'arfu Tal. Indeed, its heavens drip dew. All right, let's get a translation and a commentary on that one. So that's 28. And Israel dwelled safe, securely, untroubled, Jacob's abode. So that's how he translates that. Untroubled Jacob's abode. That's a weird translation for that one, but okay. Let's see how oh, so I usually have this over here. No, I usually have that there, I guess. Okay. Let's see how Everett Fox deals with that one. So Israel will dwell in security alone, the fountain of Yaakov, in a land of grain and new wine. Yes, his heavens drip dew. So I like that translation, I think, better than Robert Alter's. Even though, what does that mean, the fountain of Yaakov? Let's try to get a Robert Alter commentary. So the normal meaning of Yein Yaakov would be Jacob's well, which makes little sense here, right? Most scholars construe the noun as a derivative of the root wow nun, to abide, which thus yields a nice parallelism with Israel dwelled securely. Like Ma'on, I see. No, not Ma'on, that would be with an I. And the same root is reflected in Ma'on, refuge, at the beginning of verse 27. No, he is saying it's the same root. Okay. This is a bit technical. We're not going to get into it. I see what he's saying. He's saying that this word ein is related to this word mi'ona. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I go for that. At any rate, let's move on. We'll do the first half of the verse here. Asherecha Yisrael, mi chamocha, am noshab Yahweh. So happy are you, joyful are you, Israel. Mi chamocha, who is like you? Am noshab Yahweh, a nation that is saved by Yahweh, that has salvation from Yahweh. Noshah means to be saved by or to have salvation from. Yes, it's the same root as Yehoshua, which is Joshua, and also, of course, later on in the Hebrew name for Jesus, Yeshua, is basically the same as Yehoshua. Yeshua is a later form of Yehoshua, but it all comes from this underlying root, which is Yud Shin Ayin, which means save or salvation. And again, whenever I mention Jesus, even in passing, I always must say, for reasons, unfortunately, that we have one Karaite running amok among the Christians and pandering to them and bowing down and kissing their toes, and then them saying back to him, "Oh yes, thank you so much, whatever your name is. You've increased my faith in Jesus," which, when I hear that, sickens me to my stomach. But at any rate, I always need to point out, whenever I mention Jesus in passing, that I am not in any way, shape, or form a Christian, Messianic, or anything even close to that. If I do mention it, it's either to point out to my Christian and former Christian friends who sometimes will join the study, the relationship to something about that person, or it's to just quote some historical context involving Jesus, Yeshua. And by the way, as I've said before, I don't have hatred for the man as an historical figure, if we can believe that the Gospels that speak about him are accurate, which is another issue or question in and of itself. But if we can assume that they're relatively accurate, then I think he was a great guy. He was an anti-Pharisaic. I'm anti-Pharisaic. He was antinomian, which means he was against the over legalistic nonsense of the Pharisees, and he was definitely against the corruption of the Sadducees, who were corrupt at the time. And he seems to be arguing for a return to basic, simple, straightforward Torah. So he was kind of a Karaite. He was kind of a Karaite leading figure before Karaites ever existed. And maybe, there have been other movements in the history of Judaism that have gone in that same direction, such as Hasidism, the Hasidic movement, which was also antinomian in the sense that it was a in its own way, although it became very legalistic, although still not to the same degree as what are called the Misnagdim. Those were the Jews that were, the Orthodox Jews, we could say. Hasidim are also lumped into Orthodox, but the standard Orthodox Jews. So the Hasidim were against also their over legalism or their hyper legalism, and so that's a lot of what Hasidut was about. Was fighting against this over legalistic view towards keeping the Torah and getting back more towards basic things such as singing to Yahweh, dancing, praying, pouring out your heart to him in personal prayer. So Jesus was an anti-Pharisaic, anti-nomian movement. I mean, Jesus the man seemed to be trying to push people in that direction. Hasidut, the Hasidim, also were to a certain degree. They certainly weren't anti-rabbinical Judaism, but they wanted to back off a bit of the hyper legalism that had defined rabbinical Judaism in the late Middle Ages, or I guess it's already in the Renaissance period. So so that's that. So I don't hate the guy as a human being, but I certainly don't accept him in any way, shape, or form. That he is anything more than just an historical figure, a human being who, if Paul hadn't picked up the mantle and started spreading this fledgling little cult to the rest of the world, probably would have been completely forgotten. But that was not meant to be for whatever reason. So, all right, that's that. But I don't hate the guy as an historical figure, but I don't accept him in any way, not as the Messiah, not in the past, not in the present, not in the future, certainly not a son of God, a god or a son of God or a demigod or anything like that. He was just a human being who happened to make his way into history through whatever twist of fate, who was then picked up by Paul and then eventually by the Romans, turned into a national religion. And of course, since the Romans were already pagan, then they accepted him as their new god, basically, in a nutshell. Okay, Asherecha Yisrael mi chamocha am noshav Yahweh. Who is like you, a nation that receives salvation from Yahweh? Magen is recha. Asher Harev Ga'avatecha. The shield of your help. Asher Harev Ga'avatecha. And which is the sword of your greatness or your honor or your excellency. What the heck does that mean? We got to figure that one out. So it's pretty clear up to here, but now let's see. Magen Ezrecha Asher Cherev Ga'avatecha. I guess this is speaking about Yahweh and saying he's the shield of your help. He acts as a shield towards you. It's a shield and a help towards you. Asher Cherev Ga'avatecha. And whose sword is your pride or something like that. Let's get a Robert Alter on that one. Verse 29, happy are you, Israel, who is like you, a people rescued by the Lord. That one we said was pretty straightforward. Your shield of help and the sword of your triumph. Okay. Let's go on to the end of the verse. ותעל במותמו תרדוך. So, likhosh means to kind of trample down, I guess. Let's see how they translate it here. Your enemies cower before you. Okay. Okay. And Everett Fox gives that one as your enemies shall come cringing to you. Robert Alter translates that one as your enemies cower before you. Okay, so we'll go with that. We'll go with Everett Fox. Your enemies comes cringing to you. And you upon bamotemo literally means they're high places. Tidroch, you shall stampede, trample on their high places. And what does that mean, their high places? I guess this could be a reference to the places where they have their idol worship, their idols set up, because usually that's where idols were set up, on the tops of hills, on the high places they would call them, or on platforms that were built, which were also bamot, but basically on platforms on high hills. But it just may mean just like stomp down on top of you. In other words, above you. All right, let's get a translation. Let's see how Robert Alter deals with it. And you on their backs will tread. So yeah, he's basically saying bamotemo, basically on them. You will trample them like from above. Might be a good translation. Everett Fox. Also on your backs. On their backs you will tread. Okay. Let's get some commentary on that one. Yeah, I'm almost done. No, not now. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, Deborah Palm Tree. Okay, so, all right, let's get a commentary on that one. So rescued, this verb is frequently associated with military victory. That's true. And the rest of this verse emphatically confirms that sense. The poem concludes with a triumphalist flourish that is dictated by the geostrategic reality of the land of Israel. The tribes may be blessed with an abundance of natural resources, grain and wine and oil, and the treasures of the sea and its shore, but they are surrounded in... Okay, we're going to skip ahead that. It's a little bit long-winded. And let's go down to... the commentary on the verse we're reading right now. So, on their backs will tread, although most biblical occurrences of the noun bamot use it in the sense of high places. That's what we were just saying. It appears that the topographical meaning of the term was an extension of its original anatomical sense, the backs of the hills. Okay. Job 9:8 describes God trampling on the crests or backs of the sea. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm throwing them outside. Okay. So Job 9:8 describes God trampling on the crests or backs of the sea, probably a reference to his triumph over the primordial sea monster Yam. The linking of exactly the same verb and noun here is virtually iconographic representation of utterly subjugating a defeated enemy. Okay, so he's saying that this word bamot, which is usually translated as high places, really comes that it really means the backs of the hills, which is interesting. And he refers us to Job 8. Okay. Fair enough. I'm not sure where they're getting the idea that bamot means the back, but let's look at the BDB and then we're going to end. So here they translate as a high place. So word origin of uncertain derivation. High place mountain. What are you doing? Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry about that. Distractions. Okay. So high places, battlefields. I don't see anything here in the BDB referring to back, but there is a lot written, that's for sure. Okay, so I think we're going to end here. Let's get a final update. Let's see what news we have coming in from Israel. See if there's anything new. And then we're going to end the study for today. So I think let's see here. So this is the latest. Fresh airstrikes. Notice how it's airstrikes because the Israeli leadership is too much of a coward or too much of cowards to actually do a ground incursion into Gaza. And I'll venture to say, knowing what cowards they are in the past, I could be wrong on this one because this is a new level of offense. But based on the past, they're not going to do an incursion, or if they do, if there's a ground incursion into Gaza, it'll be a very, very minor, because they're cowards and because they have no faith in Yahweh and they don't really have a true vision for what the state of Israel is supposed to be. All right, so 1,000 wounded. So dozens of bodies are being removed from the scene where Israelis were massacred at a nature party near Kibbutz Re'im. There's a whole bunch of Israelis dead. Galant, Hamas will soon realize it made a grave mistake and will pay a heavy price. Bullshit. All talk. Yeah. All right. Horrible. All right. So on that not so happy note, I think we're going to end it for today. Any final comments or questions? So we didn't get to Deuteronomy, the last chapter of Deuteronomy, which is narrative. It's basically the death of Moses. Maybe we should read through it really quickly. So I'll do it. I'll read through it really quickly without any commentary, just so we could say we finished Deuteronomy. Let's do it. Ya'al Moshe Me'aravot Moav el Har Nevo. You can follow along in your own translation. Rosh HaPisgah Asher al Pnei Yericho Wa Yarehu Yahweh et Kol Haaretz et Gilad ad Dan. So Moses went up to the mountaintop, and God showed him all the land of Israel from the Gilad until Dan. Gilad is not sure exactly where that is on the map, but Dan is all the way in the north at the base of. Actually, Dan later they migrated to there. It's more complicated. We have more time to get into it. Let me just continue. But Kol Naphtali, Wet Eretz Ephraim, Umenashe, Wet Kol Eretz Yehuda Ad Hayama Aharon. So basically, Moses saw the entire land of Israel. Verse 3, Wa'et Hanerev, Wa'et Hakikar, Yirat Yericho, Ir Hatamarim Ad Tzoar. So one of the things he's seeing is Jericho. That's going to be the first attack that the children of Israel do when they go into the land of Israel, besides where they came in itself, Gilgal. But the first real attack was Jericho. ויאמר יהוה אליהו, זאת הארץ אשר נשבעתי לאברהם, ליצחק, ליעקב, לאמור, לזרעך אתננה, הראיתיך בעיניך, ושמה לא תעבור. So this is the land I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So this kind of ties it all the way back to the beginning of Genesis, right? Because that's kind of how Genesis started, at least when we talk about the patriarchs, this promise of the land. And here Moses is standing just outside the land, looking at it, the fulfillment of the promise that so many hundreds of years before Yahweh had made to his great, however many grandparents, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 5, Yamat Sham Moshe, Eved Yahweh be'eretz Moav al pi Yahweh. And I'll just translate this verse. And Moses died there. Moses, the slave, they usually translate the servant of Yahweh, but it literally means the slave of Yahweh. Yahweh's slave died in the land of Moab at the word of Yahweh. Verse 6, Vayikbor oto begai be'eretz Moab mul bit'or velo yada ish et kivurato ad hayom hazeh. And he buried him. Who buried who? God buried Moses. So however Moses was buried, it's almost like, I mean, the implication is that Yahweh did it. Who knows? Maybe he sent the wind and made a hole. Maybe he sent angels. It doesn't give us that information. But at any rate, nobody knows Moses' burial place until this very day. Verse 7. Moshe ben me'awa esrim shana b'moto. Moses was 120 years old at his death. Lo ka'ata ino velo nas lecho. Moses was 120 years at his death. His eyes had not become dim, as opposed to, let's say, Isaac, whose eyes became dim. Velo nas lecho, and his strength had not abated. His vigor. Vayivchu b'nei Israel et Moshe ba'aravot Moav, and the children of Israel mourned the death of Moses in the plains of Moab, Shloshim Yom, for 30 days, the same amount of time that Jacob was mourned. And we see this also in the last chapter of Genesis. So there is a lot of parallels between the last two chapters of Genesis, which are the blessings that Jacob gives to his 12 sons on his deathbed, before he dies. And then the death of Jacob, actually that's in Genesis 49, the death of Jacob, then in the following chapter, the death of Joseph. Okay, but if you look at Deuteronomy, the last two chapters of Deuteronomy and the last two chapters of Genesis, they're almost identical in their structure. Blessing followed by death, and there are a lot of parallels. If we had more time, we would get into them, but we're going to end the study now. Okay. Shloshim Yom Yitmu Yemei Bechi Evel Moshe. So they mourned for him for 30 days, just as Jacob was mourned for 30 days. You can look back in Genesis 49 and see that. And the days of mourning for Moses came to an end. And remember, we said that that Deuteronomy started it says explicitly in Deuteronomy chapter 1, I think verse 1, on the first day of the 11th month. So we've said many times that it was only 2.5 months before the children of Israel entered the land of Israel, assuming a 12-month year, which is the typical length of the Hebrew year. And so this is, if they mourn for basically a month, the death of Moses, and then they entered the land, as we see in the beginning of Joshua. They entered the land in Passover, so that would be, they entered the land specifically on the 10th of the first month. So that doesn't leave much time for Moses to be alive. So if the book of Deuteronomy starts on the first day of the 11th month, that's 2.5 months. We have a month of mourning, so that means only 1.5 months, basically, for the entire book of Deuteronomy, or meaning from when Moses starts speaking at the beginning of Deuteronomy until his death that we're seeing here. So the whole book of Deuteronomy spans, not including the mourning period after his death, about 1.5 months. If we include the mourning period, then at most 2.5 months. Okay, verse 9. Yeshua bin Nun, Malay Ruach Chachma, ישמח משה את ידו עליו וישמעו אליו בני ישראל ויעשו כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. And Joshua the son of Nun, Malay Ruach Chachma, became full of the spirit of wisdom. כי שמח משה את ידו עליו, because Moses had laid his hands upon him. In other words, we saw this back in Numbers, I believe. Moses transferring his power, his status, his special spirit that he got from Yahweh onto Yeshua. And the children of Israel now listen to him, speaking about Joshua. And he did as Yahweh had commanded Moses. In other words, this is basically saying, this is kind of like the official statement that Yeshua is now going to take over from Moses, and the children of Israel should and did listen to him the way they had listened to Moses. This is the official passing of the baton. Actually, we saw it much earlier, but this is now after his death that Joshua is taking over. He's fully stepping into the in the footsteps or into the shoes of Moses. This is famous. Navi od b'Yisrael Moshe asher yid'o Yahweh panim el panim, and there never arose another prophet in Israel like Moses, who Yahweh knew face to face. L'chol ha'otot wa'hamuftim asher shelacho Yahweh la'asot be'eretz Mitzrayim, for all of the signs and wonders that Yahweh sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and all of his slaves, his servants, and all of his land. And this is the last chapter in the Torah. And for all of the strong hand and all of the amazing or the great how would you translate morah, the great visions or great things that they saw. I don't know how to translate here. From I'm sorry. All of the terrible things asher asam Moshe, which Moses did la'anei kol Yisrael, before the eyes of all of Israel. So basically, this is the passing of the baton, and the last 3 verses are praise of Moses, who was a very humble man, the most humble of all men, and a summary of all that he did for Israel. Because in a certain sense, as we well know, Moses was the linchpin in all of Israel's existence. The patriarchs set up the nation, but Moses came and freed the nation from Egypt and turned them into an independent nation, had them, was there when they received the 10 commandments from Yahweh, built the tabernacle, which is the center of all worship, and when all worship of Yahweh, brought them or put up with all of their nonsense for 40 years, and then brought them to the borders of the land of Israel, where they would enter the land of Israel. So Moses was basically turned them from a bunch of slaves into a nation ready to enter and conquer the land of Israel. And with that, we're going to end. And we're going to talking about the nation of Israel. We're going to wish everybody in the nation of Israel comfort and protection from Yahweh, the God of Israel. May he avenge the enemies of Israel that are now attacking Israel. And unfortunately, this sometimes needs to be done because Yahweh does use the other nations to punish Israel for their stubbornness and their failure or their abandonment of his law. And as I said, Israel has basically abandoned the true Torah of Moses to take on the two foreign philosophies of America / Western worship on the one hand, and rabbinical Judaism worship on the other hand. I went on a whole rant on that in the beginning of the talk, but nonetheless, we pray that all of those who are suffering now and who have lost loved ones or whose loved ones have been captured, kidnapped, and brought to Gaza, that they be comforted, that those who are still alive be returned safely, and that Yahweh avenge the pain and suffering of the people of Israel, and that hopefully, maybe, this will wake at least some of them up, and maybe, who knows, even all of them, although I doubt it, but will wake some of them up to follow the true Torah of Yahweh and to fulfill what Yahweh had in his vision for the people of Israel. So with that, I'll say Amen. Say thank you all for joining me for this Torah study. Be'ezrat Yahweh. We'll see you again next week. And we will end it here. So thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov.